Good morning. Good morning to all students. So we are proceeding with the topic of trusses. Today we are going to discuss what are the conditions to identify zero force member. Say with help of this concept you can simplify sometimes some members or some trusses because many of the forces can become zero, and you can simplify the truss by thinking or during analysis that this force is zero, and you can straightforward write why this force is zero. So first condition is if two forces are meeting at a joint. If two forces or two members, you can say two members are meeting at a joint and there is no third force, either third member or third external force. That means there are only two forces, and the angle between these two forces is any angle except 180-degree. It can be any angle but it should not be 180-degree. Then these both the forces you can say are going to be zero, because you can use Lami's theorem or you can use summation fx0 summation fy0 to prove it, that both f1 and f2 are cannot be anything else than zero. If this particular point or this particular joint is in equilibrium, this joint is in equilibrium, then f1 and f2 both should be zero. Second condition is if there are three members meeting at a joint, it can be member or force. That means there can be two force, one there can be two members and one external force or whatsoever. In all, there are three forces meeting at a joint. Now because we assume every member is also carrying a force, so it can be an external force or a member. So if three are meeting at a point at a joint and two of them are collinear, then the third force is going to be zero. You can again use Lami's theorem to prove it, because the angle between f1 and f2 is 180 degrees, so sine 180 is going to be 0. So this is what you can prove also if someone will ask you, but these two conditions are very much helpful to to find out that or simplify the question sometimes. And some questions very interestingly can have many zero members. For example, I have given you this question. If you see this joint A, on joint A, two members are meeting, here and here, right? Only members are meeting and angle is 90-degree. It is any angle except 180-degree. That means this will be 0 as well as this will be 0. Now if you'll see the joint B, this is one force will be here, okay, and one force will be here. Now you see this has become 0. These two are collinear. You see this force and 4 Newton force, they are collinear. So that means this will become 0. Now again, if you'll see the joint C, this will become 0, this will become 0. Again at D, two are collinear, one is meeting, so this will become 0. Similarly, this will become 0, this will become 0, this will become 0. And you will find out that all the forces are going to be 0 on this side, and it is only a kind of a bar only. This truss is only taking a load of a kind of a bar. So this kind of questions can be there in competitive examinations and can be helpful to for you, and even sometimes some complicated questions, one or two members can be 0. So try to see this whenever you are doing any question. If anything is becoming 0, write it 0 before starting the question and move ahead stating these two concepts. You can straightforward write this or this and proceed. If you are getting 0, you can write it there that this is 0 because of this reason. Now another typical question I am giving you, where you have to cut more than three members. So this is a very conventional question. This, or it can be laid down horizontally. This is I have kept vertically, but it can be the diagram can be like this also, okay, or this also, right? So whatsoever is this thing, this kind of question is very common, and mostly it is there in most of the foreign author book and now appearing in Indian author books also, because it appeared in some of the examinations and competitions. Now in this question they are asking us to determine forces in the member CA, AD, DB and BE. Now, with the conventional method, what we'll do, I am just giving you the hint. I expect you to solve this question. Um, in this question, first step is going to be again determine the support reaction, because A is hinge and B is roller. So determine the support reactions. Once you have got the support reactions, then if you try to do implement method of joints, this is going to be very complex, because even if you start, you cannot start from joint A or B, because there are three forces, three unknowns are there. You have to start the problem solving from I, and then you have to move down to get to come to these joints to get the unknowns. But if you use the method of section, you can solve this question within 2 3 minutes. Now, especially why this question is different, because here we are going to cut more than 3 members to make it simpler. So how to cut it, I am just showing you. You can cut it like this. You're not cutting with a straight line, you are cutting with a curve. Okay, you are cutting with a curve. Now you have obtained section 1 below and section 2 is upward, so section 2 is like this. Okay, this is section 2 and this is section 1. So we have to analyze here section 1, because unknown forces are there in section 1. But listen carefully how to analyze it. You will see what are the forces. If I'll cut it like this, these forces will come, these forces will be visible. So we'll analyze section 1. First time you take movement about point C, which is in section 2. The advantage is these three unknown movement will become 0, and you will get this force FBE you will get. Then you take movement about, once you have got this value, you have taken movement about C, movement of this, movement of these two will become 0, and you will get the answer in, you will get only one unknown in the equation. You will have reactions, you must have calculated, so you will have you will get this unknown. Second time you take movement about point E and solve it, so you will get this force. Once we have got these two forces, once we are able to do it, then we can implement method of joint at point A and B, because we out of these three members we have identified one, and reaction we have calculated earlier. So that means now we can use method of joints here, or we can cut truss like this. Okay, to determine the forces in this and this member. And once we'll do this, then we can cut it here, and we can determine the forces in this and this member. So this is a tricky question, and used to be there in many of the questions to differentiate good students with average students. I hope this video is helpful to you, and you try to solve it. In case of difficulty, you can approach me. You can get similar questions in many books, even solution you can get it. But even if you have any difficulties or doubt, you can definitely write to me. Thank you all listening to me.